Okay, gentlemen, this is part 2 of learning Kabbalah. To summarize, our last part one of this lecture was that we said that somebody that's just out for your money, or somebody that's not a very, very big tzaddik, God-fearing Jew, and has learned Kabbalah from a great Kabbalist, is definitely not qualified to teach people Kabbalah, and it does more harm than good, probably. Kabbalah is not a commercial Coca-Cola to make money off. And then we said, who's ready to learn Kabbalah? Well, definitely you can't not go to first grade high school, middle school, and college and try. The Kabbalah is the PhD part of the Torah. So you have to have learned Shas and Poskim, no Halacha, no Chumash, no Rashi. But now let's talk about who should be learning Kabbalah. Definitely Rav Yaakov Hillel. Unfortunately, I had to do some other things today. He has I recommend this book very, very much. We are very, very blessed to have some very, very, very wonderful, authentic, great Gedolim that are Sephardic. And there's a book that actually Rabbi Yaakov Hillel deals with this question. Petach Sha'ar HaShamayim. And this whole entire book is about what tonight's lecture was about. Who is qualified to learn Kabbalah? And he goes through many, many, many things in this book. The second part of the book is an introduction to Kabbalah. But my humble and personal knowledge is that what I was saying at the end of the last lecture was, I don't believe that there's anywhere written that you have to be 40. And it could be that before the age of 40, maybe you shouldn't spend most of your time learning Kabbalah. You understand what I mean? But after 40, you can spend more of your time. But the criterion that I have seen through my research that Rav Ovadia brings, Rav Ovadia also, in his Sefer, he has a tshuva, and BaOmer also, does not require this criterion. Rav Yaakov Hillel also, the Ben Ish, it's none of the Sephardi books. Maybe it's an Ashkenazi thing, I don't know. I mean, I'm a product of Ashkenazi yeshivas and I love them. The Torah today, most of the greatest yeshivot are Ashkenazi, chas v'shalom. I'm not coming to bash, but al titosh Torah timecha. Push comes to shove, we follow the directive of our own customs and our gedolim, of the path of the Arizal, Ben Ishka, Chida, and nowhere that I have seen, and I made a disclaimer in the part 1, I'm not a Kabbalist, I'm not an expert, but since people ask me, and it's a timely subject, but the requirement to be 40, I have not seen anywhere. A few of my colleagues also that are very big Talmidei Chachamim say that in their discussions and in their research with very great rabbis, and they're very knowledgeable, they haven't seen this 40 thing. The criterion is, to learn Kabbalah, is that you should be a Talmid Chacham, you should be familiar with the Shas, the Poskim, Chumash, Rashi, keep the Halacha, learn the 39 Melachot of Shabbat, learn Shulchan Aruch, and then you're ready. So let's look what the Gra writes about how important Kabbalah is. The Zohar writes that there's 3 Galut, you know that. We went to the Galut of Mitzrayim, we went to the Galut of Haman and Nebuchadnezzar. Then we're in the Galut of the Romans and the Greeks, right? This last Galut, which is... So the Zohar says a beautiful thing. The Zohar says that each one of the Galuts we're going to get redeemed in the merit of one of our forefathers, right? So the first Galut, why was God so gracious to take us out? Because of Abraham. And that's really the Brit Ben Abitarim, right? God promised specifically Abraham that I will take them out with a lot of wealth. And the second Galut, which was the Galut of Iran, and it's interesting that Kuresh helped build the second Bet HaMikdash. So that's Avodah. You know, Yitzchak is the symbol of our devotion and prayer to God. And guess what the third Galut who we're going to come out of? Yaakov. And what was Yaakov the personification of, the embodiment of? Torah. Ish tam yoshev ahalim. So the learning of Torah the spreading of Torah. Time is so precious, we should use every second to do Torah and mitzvot. So, but the Gra writes that specifically it's in the merit of the learning of Zohar and the Kabbalah, the secrets of Torah, that Mashiach will come, because that's the nuclear powerhouse. So I want to say an interesting quote, my own quote. One of the reasons Mashiach is not coming is people that are not qualified to learn Kabbalah are learning it, but there's the other side of the coin. People that should be learning it are not learning it. And I want to share with you one of the most beautiful things I ever saw from the Ben Ish Chai. It had such an effect on me. I was just, once it got into my head, I kept on, every lecture I gave within the few months of that, there's a Gemara in Sukkah. And we're talking about Lag BaOmer. The Gemara in Sukkah, page Memhei, Mah, 45b, the last few lines of the Gemara says, Amar Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, Ra'iti b'nei aliyah v'mu'atin hen. Rab Shimon Bar Yochai laments. He says that he's terribly, terribly sorry. It's unfortunate. He has seen people that are constantly devoted to growth. You know, we human beings, we could be so lazy and complacent and just retarded in our growth. Or every day we could learn new things and become more knowledgeable and better people and more refined and more, greater. Our potential is unlimited. So Rab Shimon Bar Yochai in the Gemara says, Amar Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, Ra'iti b'nei aliyah v'mu'atin hen. I unfortunately have observed people that always strive for greatness and to grow, and they're very few and far between. Im elef hem, anochi v'b'ni mehem. Rab Shimon Bar Yochai says, if there's 1,000 in the world, you better be sure me and my son are part of that exclusive group. If there's 100 in the world, that people that are striving for greatness and constantly growing, and progressing up the spiritual ladder, you better believe me and my son are part of it. If there's only 2 people in the world, you should know me and my son are part of it. So the Ben Ish Chai is a little bit bothered. In Ben Yehoyada, he writes, what is the Rashbi trying to tell us here? That if there's only 2 people that are willing to grow, it's me? Doesn't this sound a little bit haughty and like exclusive, elite? You should know I'm the best. If there's anybody in the world that wants to grow, well, definitely, if there's only 2 people left in the world, it's me and my son. So the Ben Ish Chai says such an eye-opening and brilliant, and really this is what the Rashbi is trying to tell us here. The Ben Ish Chai says, Chas v'sholom. See, one of the qualifications for somebody to learn Kabbalah and be a Kabbalist, because make no mistakes, the prophets, they were great Kabbalists. And maybe it was worthwhile to talk about it in the part 2. You have to have refined characteristics. You have to be humble. You have to have anger management, Somebody that is constantly, he cannot see the light of Kabbalah and truly understand it. He has to be modest. He has to be humble. He has to be very swift. You know what I mean? So, what Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is saying here is not, God forbid, oh, you should know, it's only me and my son that are great people. No. He's saying, what causes my aliyah? The Zohar. He says, and I want to tell you guys something. In today's age, it's such a beautiful age. I could be giving a class here. All of you guys are here. And then, in 100 years from now, somebody could just go on YouTube or go on my website and they could see this. So the amount of knowledge that is being spread is so easy to access knowledge nowadays. But there's a dark side to this. The pornography and the terrible things on the internet. It takes people to... I saw Rav Ben Zion Mutzafi was saying, Shiv'aim Niduregein, of the 7 depths of... we're talking about a previous lecture about the 49 levels of darkness. In a second, just the despicable images you could see. And I tell you something. All our phones, all our computers, all our access to internet have to have filters on them. K9. It's asur to own a phone if you don't have it. My wife put one on mine. But what I'm trying to tell you here is the amount of depression and very, as a rabbi of a big community, you know, a lot of people have some very complicated problems out there. Psychological problems. A lady was just talking to me, crying to me, literally a few minutes ago. She was having problem with parnasah. The amount of chutzpah and indecency. Where in the history of mankind would two people have the chutzpah to say gay marriage should be exactly like, pretty soon they're going to propose to their dogs and cats. Somebody already wants to marry their dolphin. It's going to happen in our lifetime. Don't laugh. They're going to want to have legal recognition. Then they're going to want to it's a slippery slope to want to make child abuse. There's a lot of light today in the world, but there's a lot of darkness. A lot of depression, so I believe, and I didn't say this, a lot of the greatest rabbis said this. It's because of that's what Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is saying. The end of times are here. And the most powerful thing that's going to help you go and become the greatest tzaddik, greatest chacham, greatest servant of God possible is, you know what? The learning of Kabbalah. You understand? That's what Reb Shimon Bar Yochai means in the Holy Zohar, in the Gemara and Sukkah. I saw people that are Bnei Aliyah, people that want to progress, and they're very limited. You know why? Because they're not learning the Zohar. They don't have the science and the powerhouse, the nuclear energy that the Zohar gives you, because it's very difficult test not to say Lashon Hara, for example. Okay? But when you go learn the Zohar and see when you say Lashon Hara, how much it damages your tefillot, how much it totally it's like shooting yourself in the foot. We have terrible darkness, but God has given us the instrument nowadays. There's the knowledge of the Arizal, the knowledge of Kabbalah. You understand what I'm saying? There always has to God is never going to put you in a test that you can't pass. You understand? So, for people that are ready to learn or not learning, they're doing a terrible thing. They're causing the Mashiach not to be able to come. They're causing their growth to become retarded, not to retain and get their greatest potential. All of our greatest rabbis, including Rav Ovadia Yosef, including the Ben Ish Chai, including the Chida, Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, all of our great tzaddikim and Talmidei Chachamim and Gedolim and leaders, they learned Kabbalah, they believe in it, and of course, the previous lecture was all about who is qualified to teach it, who to learn it. You have to learn it at the right people. But look what the Gra writes in Even Shlomo, which is a collection of what the Gra writes. He says, he says, look, whenever you want to say a meaning in the Torah, even a simple meaning, it has to coincide what it says in the Zohar. He says, later in your life, when you get to the advanced part of the Torah, you'll realize that it's like a microscope, right? You're looking at the same thing, just different levels of intensity. Look what the Gra writes here. He says, if you don't have a clear understanding of the Sod, the secrets of Torah, you don't even understand the real meaning, even the simple meaning of Torah. Right? So it's like, let's use science. Can you imagine how terrible it was when the world didn't know the secret of what an atom is and what an electron is, right? Neuroscience is. We were able to create the nuclear bomb and understand. It's an amazing amount of knowledge to understand that there's atoms. It's just a fascinating thing. Same thing. If you learn the Torah, you don't learn the Kabbalah, you understand? You don't learn the secrets. You don't see the amazing miracles. The Gra writes, when we write, one of the most important things that causes us to truly understand the Torah is to pray to God, to open our eyes. And the Gra writes, when you say in the bracha of Shema Yisrael, Beha'erenenu betoratecha bedabik, then you should have kavanah that you're asking God for you to open your eyes, have good teachers, get the right filters, get the right mentors. V'ha'er enenu, to see the beautiful light of Torah, you should have kavanah that it's going on what? The secrets of the Torah. Did you know that? That's what you should have kavanah in. V'ha'er enenu v'toratecha, that God should help you and guide you to understand the secrets of Torah. Look what the Gra writes in Perek Chet of Even Shlomo. This is quoting. It says, "Penimut Torah hem chaim lepnimut haguf shem hanefesh v'tzon." The secrets of Torah gives true light to your soul and to your body. And the other parts of Torah are like giving light onto the outer parts of your neshama. And look what the Gra writes. Ha'oskim beremez v'sod en yetzer hara yachol leitkarat b'hem. He says, this is really coinciding with what the Ben Ish Chai says. He says, somebody that is constantly learning Kabbalah and Zohar, he can get to a level that the Satan can't mess with him. The Satan will not be able to deceive him so easily. Because he has this nuclear gun. He kind of has like the cheat sheet of the Mossad or the CIA, you understand? So may Hashem truly help us to be diligent in our studies, to learn through Shas, to learn through Poskim, to know what's permitted on Shabbat, to work on our character traits, to be humble, to be modest, to be a giver rather than taker. All of these are very important qualifications to get to the PhD level of what? To learn Kabbalah, and may God truly, truly help us celebrate Lag BaOmer. Amen.
Amen.